The first images are aftermath. Satellite frames time-stamped 1541 local time show 7 coastal batteries along Iran's southern shore, burning like lines on a ruler. The Strait of Hormuz, narrow and choked with smoke, glitters with debris tracked at coordinates every few hundred meters. Thermal sensors still read above 600 degrees Celsius. A downed radar tower smolders at Bandar Abbas. 32 minutes earlier, that coast was alive with launch signatures. Now it is silent. U.S. Carrier Task Force Roosevelt continues its eastbound transit at 20 knots, formation unbroken, wake undisturbed. The fight is already over. The record says Iran fired first. The system logs show that moment began the countdown to everything seen here now. 7:44 local. The carrier strike group moves through the strait at steady course 096, flanked by destroyers Mason, Stetham, and Winston S. Churchill. Sea calm, wind from northwest at 8 knots. Flight deck crews secure aircraft, air ops suspended for narrow passage safety. On the bridge, Commander Wells notes intermittent radar flickers along the northern arc, roughly 35 kilometers out. The ANSPY-1D arrays aboard Mason display, faint low power returns. The operator on watch logs them as static from fishing traffic and shoreline clutter. No alarms. Below deck, combat systems drill through readiness checks. Missile cells report green. The ship hums with quiet confidence. No one senses that the screens have already begun recording the signature that will identify each Iranian site before a single weapon is fired. 9:12. Onshore, near Jask, Iranian coastal radar plots the same formation from opposite bearing. Inside the bunker, fluorescent lights buzz against concrete walls. Colonel Reza Bahmani studies the screen. The American formation appears broad, slow, predictable. He marks each ship's return manually. Old habit, unnecessary now, but grounding. His technicians adjust antenna azimuths to sharpen their images. The data flows through fiber to Bandar Abbas, where command analysts synchronize 7 stations for what they call mirror track alignment. It is meant to mask power spikes by spreading signal energy evenly. They are proud of the precision. They do not realize every transmission interval is identical, creating a pattern visible from orbit. At 10:37, Mason's radar operator notices something subtle. Each Iranian return flashes at precisely 1.5-second intervals. He mentions it to the tactical action officer, who glances, nods, and says it matches known calibration routines, standard coastal alignment, nothing threatening. The officer logs the pattern as routine. The destroyer continues on course. On the Roosevelt, radar control runs its scheduled maintenance rotation, shutting down one of 4 arrays for 15 minutes to test cooling flow. During that downtime, several of the synchronized Iranian pulses overlap, creating a composite echo that briefly spikes above background noise. The computers flag it as coincidental interference. No escalation request is filed. 11:58. In the underground operations room at Bandar Abbas, temperature 34 Celsius, the Revolutionary Guard's electronic warfare officer listens to a bank of static-filled receivers. American channels remain quiet. No jamming, no evasive maneuvers, no fighter launches. His report to command is short. Target group unaware, passive state. To him, silence equals opportunity. He signs the readiness form authorizing Coastal Grid Red. In 7 separate batteries, spread across 80 kilometers, crews switch on launch platform hydraulics. Compressors hiss, fuel valves click open. Missile coolant lines pulse like veins. Each operator watches a green light sequence climb the panel. Power levels equalize, capacitors charge. Outside, gulls scatter from the dunes. The entire coastline hums. 13:02. Across the Gulf, in Bahrain, a U.S. Navy cryptologic team monitors Iranian voice traffic from a low-lit room filled with monitors. 2 operators wearing headsets record an encrypted burst lasting 3 seconds. The audio algorithm identifies key syllables matching a known exercise code phrase, delivery authorized. It's cataloged as probable training chatter. A lieutenant initials the log and forwards it for analysis. Estimated turnaround, 20 minutes, no priority flag. The analysts are right about the phrase's origin, but wrong about timing. The codebook they're referencing is 6 months out of date. On current networks, those same syllables authorize live fire. The warning travels too slowly to matter. 1427. At Battery 1 near Sirik, launch crews stand by with hands resting on control panels. Wind from the Gulf carries salt into open vents. Inside, targeting data locks on the Roosevelt's thermal return. Distance 62 kilometers. Colonel Bahmani receives final synchronization confirmation. All 7 batteries aligned, missiles fueled, seekers cooled. He hesitates for 6 seconds, then keys his mic. All units, package delivery, launch on my mark. 3, 2, 1, fire. 14 plumes stab into the haze, followed by 18 more within 10 seconds. Each C-83 missile accelerates to Mach 2.3 within 30 seconds, skimming 5 meters above the water. Flight paths converge from 7 launch sites at radial bearings between 112 and 148 degrees. Iranian technicians cheer as telemetry shows uniform spacing and velocity. They have achieved textbook coordination. They do not see that the synchronized ignition has broadcast a single, unmistakable composite signal, one that the Roosevelt's electronic support measures capture instantly. 14:28:15. On the destroyer Stetham, the radar console explodes with movement. The operator calls out, "Multiple inbound supersonic, range 60 kilometers." The automated system classifies the signatures as hostile. Before the tactical officer finishes his confirmation phrase, the Aegis network distributes fire control solutions to all 5 ships. Interceptor launchers swing to azimuth. Within 12 seconds, 12 SM-6 missiles streak upward, contrails twisting white against the blue sky. Each accelerates to Mach 3.5, closing on the incoming swarm. The entire sequence, from first detection to counterfire, lasts 19 seconds. Human orders lag behind by 5. On Iranian scopes, returns multiply. For the first time, operators notice the counter launches. At Bandar Abbas, technicians shout overlapping reports. Colonel Bahmani studies the data, intercept tracks at 55, 50, 45 kilometers. He calculates flight times. Too fast, too soon. "Impossible," he mutters. He believes American systems are overreacting, perhaps misclassifying decoys. He does not know the US algorithms have already triangulated his emitter positions. When his second-in-command reports, "All missiles on course," he nods. Confidence remains. Outside, the desert trembles with the concussive shock of each new ignition. 14:29. The first intercept occurs 49 kilometers from Roosevelt. High-speed cameras capture a pinpoint flash on the horizon, followed by vapor expansion. 1 Iranian missile disappears, then another, then 3. Debris rains into the sea, leaving vapor trails curling into nothing. Each interception registered at 0.2-second intervals, but several missiles drop lower, hugging the wave tops where radar coverage falters. The system reassigns defensive priority to the closer threats. Stethem's close-in weapon system rotates, barrels tracking invisible objects beyond visual range. The gun captain steadies his hand. "Engage on tone," he says quietly. 14:30:12. Mason fires 4 more interceptors. 2 hit, 2 miss. 5 missiles remain inbound at altitudes below 10 meters. Their wake spray forms continuous white scars across the water, closing at 800 meters per second. Combat cameras record the shimmer of supersonic shockwaves. Roosevelt's deck crew braces, eyes on the horizon. At 20 kilometers, the carrier's phalanx mounts activate, barrels spinning to 4,500 rounds per minute. The air fills with tungsten and smoke. Tracers carve orange arcs. 2 missiles detonate midair, fragments raining harmlessly into the sea. 1 disintegrates under direct hit 5 kilometers out. 2 remain. 14:30:42. Those 2 missiles diverge, one climbing to confuse fire control radars, the other holding low and fast. Stetham and Churchill both target the higher one, achieving simultaneous kill. The low flyer remains unseen for 9 seconds, radar cross-section lost in sea clutter. It reappears at 4,800 meters, 22 degrees off Roosevelt's port bow. Time to impact, 6 seconds. The carrier's forward phalanx locks on, tracking radar shrieking through the deck. The gun captain squeezes the trigger. 3 bursts, less than 3 seconds total. The missile disintegrates into a fan of molten shards that scatter across the sea. The blast wave rocks nearby sailors. The horizon goes quiet again. 14:31. On Iranian screens, telemetry freezes. Battery controllers assume temporary signal loss, then secondary monitors flash red. No downlink from battery 3, then 5, then all. Colonel Bahmani stares at the empty grids. He orders backup frequency activation. Nothing. A young technician runs in, shouting that the command antenna itself has gone offline. Moments later, the bunker ceiling shakes. Dust rains from the lights. The colonel realizes they have been targeted. The American response has already arrived. 14:32. 40 kilometers offshore, Mason launches Tomahawks. 24 missiles arc toward the coast, followed by another volley from Churchill. Each carries a 500-pound unitary warhead. Flight time to impact, 2 minutes 30 seconds. Satellite uplink coordinates feed from passive triangulation of Iranian launch emissions. No human authorization needed. The trigger condition was the coastal radar's synchronized pulse. Systems fire automatically once correlation exceeds threshold. The crew watches icons advance across digital maps. Nobody speaks. 14:34:12. First impact. A Tomahawk slams into Battery 1, penetrating the reinforced shelter. Overpressure wave recorded at 2.8 pounds per square inch 2 kilometers away. Seconds later, Battery 2 disappears in a rolling detonation. Cameras aboard a U.S. reconnaissance drone record sequential fireballs stretching 70 kilometers along the coast. Secondary explosions mark fuel storage hits. Iranian surface-to-air missile crews attempt to launch intercepts, but their radars fail to acquire targets. The guidance systems have been blinded by their own emissions reflected from incoming debris clouds. 14:37. Roosevelt steadies course at 20 knots, maintaining bearing east. On board, damage control teams report no hits. Flight operations remain suspended but ready. The Combat Information Center compiles intercept data. 32 inbound missiles, 32 neutralized. Estimated debris impact radius 9 kilometers. A single oil slick from destroyed coastal tanks drifts southward. American sailors line the flight deck, watching the dark smoke columns along the horizon. Commander Wells says only, "Mark all sites for post-strike imagery." He knows it's over, but waits for confirmation. 14:40. In Bandar Abbas, communication with Coastal Defense Command ceases. Emergency frequencies carry overlapping distress calls, then static. Power grid voltage drops across the sector. The last confirmed voice transmission states, "Multiple secondary fires. We are blind." Satellite frames taken at 1442 show thermal blooms exceeding 800 degrees across all 7 positions. Within minutes, those signatures fade below detection threshold. 1446. Aboard Mason, crew members replay radar logs. They see the complete sequence. Initial Iranian synchronization pulses, launch detections, intercepts, counterstrikes. The total duration from first hostile emission to final Tomahawk impact measures 32 minutes. The network's internal timer records the same. There is no room for error in the math. Every second accounted for. Every action followed by consequence. The data tells its own story, one that begins the instant someone pressed fire on the Iranian coast. 1500. Sea state remains calm. Carrier speed constant. The smoke on the northern horizon begins to disperse. Electronic surveillance continues scanning for surviving emitters. None appear. Communications from Bahrain confirm total suppression of coastal assets. The Fifth Fleet operations log notes. Transit continues unimpeded. No celebration, just process. The sailors resume maintenance, clean gun barrels, and check spent cartridge chutes. The smell of cordite lingers, mixing with sea air. 15:10. In the Roosevelt's Intelligence Center, analysts replay telemetry. They realize the U.S. system fired before human authorization codes cleared. The automatic trigger, long theorized, rarely used, activated precisely at the correlation point of 7 identical radar emissions. The operators debate whether to log it as autonomous defensive response or preemptive return fire. The distinction will matter to lawyers, not to the machines that already acted. The crew simply records the times. 15:20. On the Iranian side, surviving staff from auxiliary posts attempt to raise central command. They hear nothing but static. Drones circling the coastline transmit high-resolution imagery, collapsed bunkers, scorched antenna fields, blackened shorelines where fuel depots burned. Emergency vehicles snake along the highway between Sirak and Jask. Sirens faint under the wind. GPS coordinates of destroyed sites appear automatically in the Roosevelt's combat log. The system lists them without adjectives. Site 1 neutralized, Site 2 neutralized, Site 3 neutralized. 1541, the same timestamp from the opening frame. The smoke columns widen, forming a dark smear over the Strait. The U.S. strike group passes the narrowest point at 21 miles wide, course unchanged, speed 20 knots. Formation holds perfect geometry. Communications record, transit complete. The aftermath still glows on infrared, but the event is already statistical. 32 minutes, 7 batteries, 32 inbound threats, 0 American casualties. The numbers align like coordinates on a map no one wanted to draw. Later, analysts will piece together the sequence down to milliseconds. The identical radar pulses, the intercepts, the counterfire thresholds. They will confirm that the American retaliation began before the first Iranian missile crossed the 50-kilometer mark. They will also note that no officer on either side intended the timing. The systems simply reached their trigger conditions simultaneously. Cause and effect merged. By nightfall, the Strait of Hormuz looks peaceful again. Oil tankers resume movement under escort lights. The Roosevelt's deck lights glow white against the dark sea. Somewhere inland, Iranian technicians sift through wreckage of what were once their most advanced missile batteries. Data drives recovered from melted consoles show that their final recorded message was a confirmation. Launch successful. They never saw the counter return in progress. The event ends where it began, with silence across the Gulf and a clock frozen at 32 minutes. Nothing else moves. The machines have finished talking.